Hey everybody, let's play a game. The game is called How Real Is Stuff? This is a game where I rank how real I think things are. We're gonna go left to right. Left is the least real. The least real thing is, sorry kids, imagination. If you're just imagining something, yeah, it's something because it's occupying your thought, but there's nothing else to it. You're just imagining it. Then I would say dreams. Because when you wake up from a dream, you've experienced something. It's beyond just thought. You really have sensory memories of it, but you can't go back and then rearrange the furniture in your dream room. It's gone. It's not anymore. That's dreams. And then the realist is physical stuff. I'm talking about objects, baby. So, where on this spectrum do spiritual things go? Are they maybe a little more than imagination, but not quite a dream? Maybe they're almost as real as physical objects, but nope. They go here. Spiritual things are more real than physical things. Well, how is that possible? Because spiritual experiences and things don't seem that realistic. I mean, the things that people describe in them, they're zooming through tunnels of light to see people that emanate light from them. You look in the Bible, there's all this, the book of Revelation, there's just all this crazy stuff going on. There's dragon with 10 horns and 7 heads, and there's composite beings and these wars in the afterlife. And I'm not saying it's not powerful. There's a message in there that might be really important, but the way that the things behave is just arbitrary. Right? It's just kind of like a vivid, lucid dream. It's not as real as this block. Because the block it's real because it's solid. It doesn't just do seemingly impossible, arbitrary things. If something is rigid, then it's real. Right? Well, is water less real than a brick? Because water does all kinds of stuff. It sloshes around and it can become a solid, it can become a gas. Well, duh. Of course, water is as real as a brick, even though it's much more dynamic. We know that it's real because we know that it follows laws. It follows the same laws of gravity and viscosity or whatever else that this brick follows. Well, spiritual stuff is following laws too. And it's following its own set of laws just as tightly as these things do. But it's not the laws of physics. They are spiritual laws that have their own character. And in this episode, we're going to look at how those spiritual laws account for everything that people see in spiritual experiences. Everything from Ezekiel's really out there visions to the spiritual experiences people are having all the time now. And we're going to describe, if you were in the afterlife right now and you just looked around, what kind of stuff you would see. Part 1, spiritual visions. We're going to talk right now about how seeing in the spiritual world works. If you're familiar with the Bible, there's visions all throughout that thing. Prophets are seeing stuff that you shouldn't be able to see or that you wouldn't expect them to see. Ezekiel, he saw flaming cherubim. I don't even know what a cherubim is. These cherubim had human and animal body parts composited together. They had wings, there were wheels. There's this large, elaborate temple that he saw. So stuff that you couldn't see on earth, but it was made of stuff you might recognize. It was something. Daniel saw these beasts. There were the 4 great beasts. He also saw God sitting on a throne that was on fire, or was a fiery throne. Also, it sounds like it's out of the MCU. A cosmic battle between a ram and a goat went on. John, maybe most famously, John was on the Isle of Patmos. He heard of the book of Revelation. He saw all kinds of stuff. The divine throne room with 7-headed red dragon that had 10 horns, and it was fighting against angels. And there was this gigantic city that was a cube and made out of clear gold coming down. That's wild stuff. But all of that was real. Swedenborg learned that those things that those prophets were seeing weren't just hallucinations. They weren't just happening in their head. I mean, you could think, well, it's a vision, so it's sure it might have some true meaning to it, but they're not actually seeing that. They're just getting a download of. They're actually seeing those things. The trick is that they were seeing into the spiritual world. So there is a physical world that you see with your physical eyes. There's also a spiritual world that is all around you. And anytime anybody has any kind of spiritual experience, I'm talking about everything from Ezekiel and the ram and the goat, all the way down to the very, very common experience of when somebody that you love dies. People will report this all the time. I haven't seen it myself. But somebody you love dies, maybe you didn't know that they were about to die, but you wake up and down at the foot of your bed, they're there and they say, hey, I love you. I've got to go. I'll see you later. And then they're gone. That's so common for people to report that. You really saw that person. You were just able to see the spiritual part of them that we can't usually see. So here's how that mechanism works. This is from Heaven and Hell 171. The things that exist in heaven cannot be seen with our physical eyes. That's why you're like, hey, where is it? But only with the eyes of our spirit. And when it pleases the Lord, these are opened. That's the difference. Swedenborg, those prophets, they don't have some mechanism you don't have. We just all have our spiritual eyes shut. Theirs were opened. At such times, we are led out of the natural light that our physical senses are in and raised into the spiritual light in which we dwell because of our spirit. Your spirit's already hanging out in that dimension. It just got to become aware. This is the light in which I have seen the things that exist in the heavens. So it's not imagining. It is literally you're seeing objects, spiritual objects in the spiritual world. So does that mean the whole spiritual world is like bonkers? I mean, like those visions with remember the 10 horns and 7 heads and the ram and the goat I keep talking about? Is that the way the spiritual world is? Is it this like fantastical? No, it can be because of the way that the spiritual material works, which we'll talk about in a minute. But a lot of what you see there, especially in heaven, looks familiar. It's just the next level. It's just more beautiful. It's more abundant. It's more alive. This is Heaven and Hell 171. There is no way to describe briefly how things look to angels in the heavens. To a considerable extent, they look like the things we see on earth, but they are more perfect in form and also more abundant. So it's like everything here we have is sort of a knockoff version of the real. Like you check, oh, this is not actually made by this company at all. This is the knockoff. That's the real thing. So the things that the angels see are great. Is the spiritual world just kind of like one giant shared imagination? I mean, is it just more like a computer program? Actually, the things and the surroundings and everything that's seen in the afterlife are more real than the things around us here on Earth. Like this thing, relatively unreal. Part 2, spiritual substance. How can the spiritual world be more real than this world? This world seems so real because it's made out of stuff. Or one reason it does is because it's made out of stuff. We tend to think of the most real stuff as the stuff this table is, you can bang on it, you can see it, you can feel it, and it's solid. You can't go through it. So we think this is the most real thing, but Swedenborg would beg to differ. Is Heaven and Hell 172. Even though the things that are seen in the heavens are largely similar to things on earth, they are not alike in essence. The things that exist in the heavens come from heaven's sun, while earthly things come from our world's sun. They say, you are made out of stardust, the heavy elements in your body. The things that arise from heaven's sun are called spiritual, while things that arise from our world's sun are called natural. So the material that flows out of the spiritual sun is not physical, but it's still a substance. there is still a thing that it is. It's not a physical thing, but it has its own properties, its own characteristics, its own laws. It's real. And actually, physical substance is just the outermost shell of reality. And it does have some characteristics that spiritual substance does not have, much like a shell on a nut or something. It's solid. It's also very dense. It's relatively inflexible. It stays fixed. And it doesn't really care what you're thinking about or how you feel. It doesn't respond to that. Sure, on the micro quantum level, they're starting to look at, okay, is there an observer effect or Schrodinger's cat or so? I don't even know what that is. But I can't change this table with my mind. I can't do. If I could, I'd make money on it somehow. Mainly this stuff obeys these physical laws. But spiritual substance works differently. It's also solid, meaning people in the afterlife have things around them that they can see, they can hear, they can taste and touch. It's very real, but spiritual substance is more fluid. It's flexible, even though it could assume a form that's as rigid as this table. Listen, we wrote out that I was always going to use this table as an example, okay? I'm not just looking around and this is the only thing I can think of. It can assume a form like this, but that form can change. And it changes in response to the thoughts and feelings that people are engaged in. This is from Heaven and Hell 173. The things that arise in the heavens do not arise in the same way as things on earth. In the heavens, everything comes into being from the Lord in response to the deeper natures of the angels. So the things around you in heaven might kind of resemble the things around you on earth, but the reason for them being there is different. So, for example, the bodies that angels are in, everything around them are a direct reflection of what's deep inside of their heart and their mind. Somehow the divine substance comes out of God, flows into and through the deeper nature of angels, and differently according to each angel's unique nature, which angel, again, is you and I when we get into the state of heaven and cross over into that world. It creates things around them that are a reflection of the states of their mind. So, the stuff around you is you, in a way. Part 3, spiritual representations. So I'm saying, somehow the spiritual world is created through angels. This is how that through angels stuff works. This is the pathway from the divine into the environment. And in this section, you're going to hear me using the words representations and appearances. That doesn't mean imaginary or unreal. It just means that in the spiritual world, the very real stuff around the angels in their environments actually represent those angels' inner characteristics. So they are responsive to what's going on in the heart and mind. This is from Heaven and Hell 175. Since all things that are responsive to angels' deeper natures also portray them, they are called representations. So the stuff that reacts to the core life of an angel, it can't help but carry the image of that life in it, so you could call it a representation. Like it is showing you something about the thing from whence it came. Since they vary depending on the state of the deeper natures for angels, they are called appearances. Even though the things that are visible to angels' eyes in the heavens and are perceived by their other senses appear and are sensed just as vividly as things are for us on earth. In fact, far more clearly, crisply, and perceptibly. Actually, the resolution on things is higher in the afterlife. The appearances that arise in heaven in this way are called real appearances because they do actually come into being. So even though things change more rapidly than they do on earth, and even though those things are reflective of what's in the heart and mind, it's just stuff that's following a different set of laws. We think of this stuff as real because there is, whatever, electromagnetic thing, gravity thing, weak force, strong force, whatever's going on in there that we know this is real because it follows that stuff. afterlife has comparable laws that are fixed, but the nature of those laws make for a more dynamic and fluid existence, but one that is more real. It's more clear to experience, and it's more harmonious from innermost things to outermost things. And it's also more instructive. Imagine being able to learn about yourself. What's going on with me, doctor? Look at the stuff that's around you. You can tell by the very tangible things that are around you in the afterlife what's going on with you. This is an example of that from Heaven and Hell 176. By way of illustration, I should like to offer one instance of the way things look to angels because of correspondences.
To angels who are focused on intelligence, there appear gardens and parks full of all kinds of trees and flowers. The trees there are laid out in the loveliest designs, joined into vaulted arches offering spaces for entrance and with promenades around them. All this is so beautiful as to defy description. People who are focused on intelligence stroll there, picking the flowers and weaving garlands to grace babies with. There are kinds of tree and flower there never seen, not even possible in our world. In the trees, too, there are fruits in keeping with the quality of the love these intelligent angels are absorbed in. They see such things because a garden and a park and the fruit trees and flowers correspond to intelligence and wisdom.
So you've got angels who are in this constant state of learning and growing, and they're becoming nicer and smarter constantly, and they get to spend their days in these amazing surroundings where you have this biodiversity you couldn't imagine, all this beauty, and there's food in it. It's all really great, and it's coming from their minds and hearts. It's not them, it's God coming through them. But fundamentally, if they weren't allowing themselves to be led in the angelic path, if they weren't taking the time to make what is good and true the center of their lives, that wouldn't be there around them. It is a response to the work that they're putting in. It's a response to the amount of God they let themselves project out into the world. So the fact that that's responsive to them allows them to be learning more about themselves and their spiritual development and their relationship with God just by walking around and looking at things, because those things around them occur because of what's in them. And it changes. So the environment around angels change as they change. Swedenborg talks about people's houses, like the house that you live in. Oh, suddenly there's a new wing being built. There's a new addition on it because it's your mind growing and expanding creates this environment you live in that grows and expands and changes. Even the ecosystems around particular communities of angels are responsive to the angels that are there. And if that group moves, the flora and fauna change. So it's a world where what's deep inside you and what's around you are in total harmony with each other. In the afterlife, there's a lot to see. There are amazing things there. All the stuff that those prophets were seeing, those fantastical things that you don't see on earth, those things can occur in the spiritual world because of these laws that govern the spiritual world. The responsiveness to what's going on in a person or in groups of people, the ability of external things to mirror and display things that are deep down. So there's possibilities, visual possibilities there that we don't have on earth. But also a lot of stuff that you would recognize, but it's more sharp, it's more beautiful. There are colors there that we don't have here. I know, like what color? Which one are you talking about? There's atmospheres that are full of like diamonds and flowers, and it describes all these incredible things, animals that can't exist here, buildings that are the height of architecture, all that stuff emerging from the Lord going into people who are open, and that light shining out in the form of, the stuff that's around you, the real concrete stuff in the environment. The more we develop goodness in our heart here, that can help us be ready for this reality This is from Heaven and Hell 176. It is known on earth that things like this exist in the heavens, but it is known only to people who are engaged in what is good, and who have not extinguished heaven's light within themselves by natural light and its deceptiveness. The one thing, the idea that, there's a life goes on, we kind of have a sense that that's true. And the idea that there's something more magical out there, I have a sense of that. Why do we have all these movies and books about these worlds that are more alive, where there's actually literal magic in them, or humans interact with nature in these incredible ways, or there's people from other galaxies? Like, why are we always imagining things that are more alive than what we have here? It's because there's a sense that it's out there. Like, we can tell that we're already plugged into that reality in a way. You can extinguish that in yourself. The more fixated we get on materialism, the less the reality seems plausible to us. And especially if we get into selfishness, that focuses your mind away from this shared world where love and truth are the most important things. So don't do that. Don't do that. Allow for the reality of spiritual things to stay sort of in your mind as you go through life. And just knowing that world, the spiritual world, the world of the thought and the feeling, is more relevant to you. Like, when you get there, you see yourself in it. It's more real than this world that we have here. And sometimes people get a glimpse into that world while they're still here. Maybe you've seen it yourself. If so, leave a comment about it. We'd love to hear it. See ya.